to Smith. Jabari for three and the win. Yeah! He got it!
NBA draft. The Houston Rockets select Reed Sheppard from the University of Kentucky.
Reed Sheppard has been called the best shooter in this draft.
We are here to fuel Rockets News. It's Rocksfield Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, LaShard Binkley. You can always find me on Twitter at Binkley Hoops. On my written work over at SB Nation or The Dream Shake. And of course, today we are talking about the NBA draft and the Houston Rockets specifically. Unfortunately, Tobias wasn't able to join us. So it's just me flying solo as my co-host Vader is out at the draft party. So I want to give a quick recap of the Houston Rockets. Of course, leading up to this, I've been saying for a while, I'll be surprised if they kept the pick, and that's exactly what they did. They kept the pick. They picked at number 3. The first 2 picks, Zachary Richardson and Alexandra Sarr went 1 and 2, so no big surprise there. And then the Rockets made the number 3 pick, and they went with the shooting guard / point guard out of Kentucky, combo guard Reed Sheppard. I wanted to talk a little bit about Reed Sheppard before I give my take on this, the overall pick and what that means for the Rockets. I want to give you a little bit of background on Reed Sheppard. Of course, Reed Sheppard was born in Kentucky. He played his high school ball in Kentucky, his college ball in Kentucky. He led the state of Kentucky in scoring his sophomore year, scoring over 30 points a game. He was named Kentucky's Mr. Basketball. So he already had a long lineage of basketball in his family. Like I said, with both his parents playing at the University of Kentucky. His father played a handful of games in the NBA. So he already had the basketball line in his blood. So you knew that he was going to be, a good player right off the bat. And he showed that in high school, like I said. Being named Kentucky's Mr. Basketball and averaging on 30 points a game. I don't care what level you do that at. That's definitely a great accomplishment. Of course, he made his decision to go play for University of Kentucky for 1 year, his freshman year. And we all know the stats. He shot over 52% from three-point range, 53% from the field. But what impressed me the most about Reed Sheppard was looking at his other stats, some stats that people maybe not talk about as much, and as he averaged over 4 assists and 4 rebounds a game while he was at Kentucky, along with 2.5 steals per game, which I don't think a lot of people talk about. And another thing about Reed Sheppard that definitely stands out everywhere you hear people talk about him is him just being a locker room guy and being the type of person that can get along wherever he's at. It doesn't matter what team he's on, what teammates he's have. He's going to be a really good locker room guy, and we saw that a lot at Kentucky. So that definitely should translate to the NBA as well. But like I said, those 2 particular stats, the rebound and assists, averaging 4 for both, even though he wasn't starting a lot of the year, that's a huge number for him. But of course, the big number when it comes to Reed Sheppard is his shooting, him being one of the best, if not the best shooter in the NBA. And funny enough, Kentucky had 2 or 3 of the top 10 three-point shooters last year, along with Rob Dillingham as well, who also went in the top 10. So Kentucky had some really good shooting last year, and hopefully Reed Sheppard brings some of that shooting over to the Houston Rockets. So that's a little bit about Reed Sheppard, a little bit about his background, as he is drafted by the Houston Rockets as the number 3 overall pick. Also, of course, wanted to give you my quick thoughts. So we're going to have another show this weekend where we're going to really break down what it means for the Rockets, what it means for him joining the Rockets this upcoming season. Rafael Stone's going to have a press conference after the first round, so we'll get even more in depth on why they decided to keep the pick and decided to go Reed Sheppard. Because, of course, we heard all the rumors that they could possibly move back with Memphis, Charlotte, Portland, all these teams that wanted Donovan Clingan, and it turns out that Donovan Clingan ends up going to Portland, and then Memphis ended up drafting Zach Edey as kind of a backup plan. So that's kind of how that fell. But we heard a lot of rumors. And we also heard the rumors after the Rockets made the huge trade yesterday with Brooklyn, where they gave Brooklyn back their 2 picks. They picked up additional picks from the Phoenix Suns over the next several years, as they're kind of playing the long game when it comes to their draft picks, because they're figuring that Phoenix is eventually going to blow up the team. So either those picks are going to be really valuable to the Houston Rockets, or they're going to use those picks to try to go get somebody like a Devin Booker from Phoenix if he decides he wants to leave. So that's part of the reason why the Rockets gave up those picks is because, yes, that pick next year from Brooklyn is going to be really valuable considering that Brooklyn just traded away Mikal Bridges for basically nothing. And they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year. But one thing, real quick on that, you got to think about the only reason Brooklyn made the pick or trade Mikal Bridges, the main reason is because they got back their picks from Houston. So, yes, seeing Mikal Bridges go to New York and now you don't have their picks, that's kind of a downer, but it's kind of a cause and effect. They wouldn't have made that trade if the Rockets didn't get back their picks, and the Rockets are looking more long term because they don't want to continue to bring in 19, 20-year-old guys. Because at some point, you're going to have to pay these guys, and at some point, they're not going to be fine playing 5, 10 minutes a game or 15 minutes a game. So you're going to have to start making some moves where you're going to solidify your roster. So you don't want to keep bringing in player after player after player that's 19, 20 years old when you're trying to take that next step. So I think that's why the Rockets are kind of playing a long game as far as these picks are concerned. May not be anything big that's happening right now as far as trading for a star player. I know some rumors about Kevin Durant, but Shams pretty much shut that down earlier. We said there was 0% chance that the Phoenix Suns were going to be trading Kevin Durant anytime soon. So we can kind of move on from that whole Kevin Durant thing that really didn't make much sense for the Houston Rockets timeline to begin with. But back to Reed Sheppard. Again, like I said, I want to give my quick thoughts on Reed Sheppard coming to the Houston Rockets. Like I said, I was expecting them to trade that pick just because there was so much interest in that number 3 pick, especially with teams wanting to trade up and get a player like a Donovan Clingan. But like I said, it turned out that didn't happen. They selected Reed Sheppard, and he absolutely fills the number 1 need for the Houston Rockets, and that is shooting. The Rockets have been one of the, if not worst teams in the league last 4 seasons when it comes to shooting. The highest they finished in 3-point shooting the last 4 years has been 21%, number 21 overall. Last year they finished number 23 overall, which was actually kind of an improvement from previous years. They actually shot 35%, but still, to be a top team, even on a top 10 defense last season, to be a contending team, you have to be able to shoot better from the field or from 3-point range and be somewhere at least closer to the top 10 instead of near the bottom of the rankings where the Rockets have been the last 4 seasons. Like I said, last year they finished 23rd, 35% overall from the field. They did have a couple of players that shot pretty well, like Fred VanVleet shot pretty well from 3-point range. Dylan Brooks started off well, kind of fell off. But outside of that, they didn't have a lot of guys. They didn't have really good 3-point shooters, and that caused a lot of problems, especially when Alperen was in the game and teams just started to double team and leave the Houston Rockets wide open because they know they couldn't make shots. So you bring in a Reed Sheppard. The main thing you got to figure out with Reed Sheppard now is where does he fit? I know a lot of people were talking about the Aaron Holiday minutes, but also Aaron Holiday got a lot more minutes because of injuries to Amen Thompson, to Cam Whitmore at the end of the season, to Alperen Sengun, which moved Amen Thompson to the 4 position out of the guard position, and that gave Aaron Holiday more minutes. So now they're going to have to figure that out. Also, with Tari Eason coming back into the fold, that's another guy they're going to have to add more minutes because he's going to be playing at least 20 minutes a game. So when it comes to being able to shoot, teams are always going to find a way to get you on the court. So I'm sure the Rockets will maybe take away some minutes from a Fred VanVleet, even take away some minutes from a Jalen Green. Whatever they have to do, they'll find a way to get a Reed Sheppard on the court. They may even run a 3-guard rotation at times where you have Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, and Reed Sheppard playing as a 3-guard rotation just so they can get that shooting on the court. Because when you're shooting 52% from 3-point range on a team that a lot of times couldn't hit the wide side of a barn, you definitely want to be able to get Reed Sheppard on the court. So that's the one thing I'm sure MA and his whole coaching staff had already been working on, because I'm sure they had an idea of that Reed Sheppard was going to be the guy long before we got to draft night. So I'm sure they've been working on that plan. And of course, we'll be able to ask MA that hopefully in the next couple of months, the next time we get to talk to him as far as that on the court. But also I'm be asking, hopefully asking Rafael tonight, when did they make the decision to go with Reed Sheppard? Had they already kind of decided a while ago that was going to be the guy? Did they have an idea? Maybe they want to go with somebody else and kind of went back and forth. Those definitely questions I'll ask him tonight, and we'll definitely try to give you an update on what he says in the press conference after the first round tonight. But again, back to Reed Sheppard, kind of going back into how he's going to fit with the rotation. It's just going to be a matter of, hey, as long as he's able to hit those shots like he did in college, they'll find a way to get him on the court. How many minutes? That's a whole different story, because I've seen reports and a lot of scouts say that he can play some point guard. He has some point guard skills. So probably he'll end up being that backup point guard. And Amen ends up being more of a forward, which he actually excelled at last year more than when he played a backup point guard. So the Rockets, it's a good problem to have. It's a lot better than it were when they traded away James Harden and they were devoid of any talent before they finally started drafting some of their young guys like Jalen Green and alperensengun. And when we were out there running the wild lineup, quote unquote, of John Wall, Victor Oladipo, and players like that. So they've come a long way when it comes to talent. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fit that in. But at the very least, the one thing you can say, they did feel a need tonight, a need they've been having for the last 3 or 4 seasons. So another thing I want to kind of go into, I want to talk about is the kind of the pros and cons of a Reed Sheppard. Like I've already talked about with his shooting, he's a really good shooter. He's also above average defender, something I don't think a lot of people talk about. And we know with MA, you have to be an above average defender at the very least, or you're not going to get on the court. We saw a lot of time where Jalen and Alperen were on the bench because it wasn't because they were missing shots. MA is not the type of coach that's going to sit you down because you're missing shots. He's going to sit you down if you're getting beat on the defensive end or you're missing defensive assignments. So at the very least, if Reed Sheppard is able to at least be a credible defender, he should still be able to get time, especially, like I said, with them needing the type of shooting that he can bring. He's also a decent, I wouldn't say he's um, above average playmaker. He's more of a connector. He's not going to make a mistake. He's not going to hold on to the ball. He's going to be able to, get that ball from Jalen Green or get that ball from Fred VanVleet, get it over to the next guy, and he's not going to hold up the offense. So he can make some plays as a facilitator, but that's not really his main thing when it comes to his play on the court. So that's something that is still a good thing. You don't want somebody that's going to hold the ball, that's going to slow down the offense. Another thing that he's a sneaky athletic. He had a 42-inch vertical. He can play above the rims at time. He is slight of frame. That's something more I go into when we talk about the cons of a Reed Sheppard. But like I said, he can play above the rim at time, which is definitely something you have to be able to do, especially at 6'2", because with that, he's not going to be able to bully anybody, into the paint. That's not going to be really his game. He's going to be more of a finesse type player or somebody that has to be able to play the angles and be able to get in certain spots. I've seen people compare him to Mike Bibby, Mark Price, players like that, Kirk Heinrich, players like that that have been in the NBA before. So that's something definitely also to keep in mind. When you're talking about the cons, again, kind of going back to the size, he is only 6'2", 6'3". He's a tweener. He's not really a point guard. He's not totally a shooting guard. He's more of a shooting guard that has point guard skills. But he is kind of slight of frame. It is going to be a question of can he guard the bigger, faster guards in the NBA, especially one-on-one. He's a really good off-ball defender, but can he guard those guys one-on-one, especially when you know how the NBA likes to run a lot of ISOs, a lot of pick and roll? Is he going to be able to play with those guards? Is he going to be able to at least hold his own when they run that pick and roll and he has to switch on to a small forward or sometime even a center? Because we've seen players like Fred VanVleet, who's only 6 feet tall, at times he was able to hold his own against much larger players, especially larger centers. So you're not expecting him to shut anybody down, especially bigger guys, but at least you don't want him to play Ole defense to where once they get that switch, they are automatically going to score. So that's going to be another question with Reed Sheppard as far as is he going to be able to hold his own? Also, will he be able to develop better handles to where he's able to get to the basket? Because, yes, it's great to be a three-point shooter, but if you're only a three-point shooter, guess what category you go into? You go into the category of being just a specialist, which is perfectly fine. But as a number 3 pick, I'm sure the Rockets are hoping for more than just being a specialist. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're talking about Reed Sheppard, when you kind of talk about pros and cons. Like I said, we're going to get a lot more into it this weekend. Hopefully we'll be able to have Tobias on, who's been watching him ever since he played in high school. So we'll definitely get him on and talk a little bit more about it. I don't like really giving draft predictions as far as whether I think this guy's going to be a bust or he's going to be this or that. You really don't know. Like, we have players that the Rockets drafted 2 or 3 years ago. We still have no idea what they are. We still don't know what Jabari Smith's going to be. We just still don't know if Jalen Green's going to take it from being at times a top 10 player in the league and at times being a bottom 50 player in the league. So we don't even know what we're getting from Jalen Green. And Jalen Green's been in the league for 3 years now. So I like to give it time and see what Reed Sheppard, definitely at least see him on the court, at least on the practice court. Hopefully the new practice court. I guess they'll announce that pretty soon. But I at least want to see him on the court, how he looks with the other player, before I just automatically say, hey, he's going to be this or be that or be. I don't like calling anybody a bust, because if you make the NBA, you're not really a bust. You're a success. You may not be one of the better players, but you're still a success in the NBA. So it'll be really interesting to see how all that plays out. Like I said, we will definitely be talking more about that this weekend. Hopefully be giving a recap on the Rafael Stone press conference tonight. Of course, we'll definitely be out once they have the press conference for Reed Sheppard. I will definitely be out at that and have video of that. And let them know down in the comments, what do you think of the pick? Are you excited? Did you want the Rockets to trade the pick? What do you think of Reed Sheppard? And what do you think he's going to bring this season to the Houston Rockets? So leave that down in the comments. As usual, we appreciate the support. And make sure you like and subscribe. We're over 2,100 subscribers, so we definitely appreciate that. So like I said, definitely leave a comment and let us know what you think. As usual, appreciate the support. And make sure you check out the next episode of the Rocket Fuel Podcast.